Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnana Pradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya TattvaBodho Vidhiyate. Page 13, we read the passage about Sukshma Sharira. Sukshma Shariram Kim Apanchikrita Panchamahabhutaihi Kritam Satkarmajanyam Sukhadukhadi Bhoga Sadhanam Panchajnanendriyani Panchakarmendriyani Panchapranadeha Manaschaikam Buddhischaika Evam Saptadashakalabhissaha Yattishtade Tat Sukshma Shariram. Saptadasha Kalabhisaha Yattishtade Tat Sukshma Shariram. That which obtains, made up of 17 parts or 17 components, is called, this is Sukshma Shariram. The subtle body is composed of the 17 components. Pancha Jnanendriyani, the 5 organs of perception. Pancha Karmendriyani, the 5 organs of action. Pancha Pranadeha, you have the 5 pranas which represent the physiological systems. They are not clarified here. What there is that the physiological systems within are in fact operated by prana or the vital air. So that which in fact keeps us alive, or that which is responsible for the vitality, is called the prana or the vital air. And this vital itself performs 5 different functions by being divided in 5-fold ways. So these divisions are prana, apana, vyana, udana and samana. Prana, breathing out. Apana, breathing in. Vyana, the circulation system. Udana is the rejection system, and samana is the digestion system. So sometimes prana is explained as the respiratory system, apana explained as the rejection excretory system, and then vyana is circulatory system. Udana is particularly a system wherein there is this impulse for vomiting when things are rejected, or even when this subtle body leaves this body. It is udana, this that actually carries this subtle body from this body and carries it to another gross body. So udana is the way that for which is responsible for the ejection or the rejection from this body, and samana is the digestion system. So these various physiological systems also are operated by the vital air, which is called prana. So sometimes I use just one word prana, which includes all of this, or sometimes the word prana is used only for the respiratory system, or sometimes the word prana is used only for the outgoing breath. So when you say pranayama, when they talk of the controlling the breath, then there prana means the respiratory system. So controlling the respiratory system, controlling breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, and whatever. So this is the 5 pranas. Actually it is one prana, but divided into 5-fold ways, performing 5 different physiological functions in our body. So thus 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, about which they will talk about. 5 pranas, that makes it 15. Manaha, the mind, and buddhi, the intellect. This manas and buddhi, the mind and intellect, also will be explained subsequently. So we'll discuss at that time. But basically, our antahkaranam, the inner organ, or the what is called mind in English, is subdivided here into 2 faculties, manas and buddhi. The feeling faculty, or that with which you doubt and you will, that is the manas, and the faculty with which you know is the buddhi. So let us say that our mind performs these 2 basic functions. One is the function of feeling or willing, and second is the function of knowing. And thus, therefore, the mind itself is divided into these 2. So that makes a total of 17. All of these are subtle. We cannot perceive them. The organs of perception cannot be perceived by the organs of perception. With our organs of perception, we can perceive the objects of the world, but eyes cannot perceive eyes and ears cannot hear ears. Thus, these organs of perception are beyond perception, therefore, they are sukshma or subtle. Similarly, organs of action, the mind, intellect, all of these are beyond the perception of sense organs. Therefore, we call them the sukshma or subtle. This sukshma sharira also is called linga sharira sometimes. So linga means that which is evidence. Linga is evidence. So lingate aneneti lingam, that by which you infer something, that by which you know something. Or linam gamayati, that which reveals something which is hidden, is also called lingam. So this sukshma sharira or subtle body reveals the fact that there is self for the consciousness. Why is it so? Because this subtle body, as this passage says, also is made up of the five elements. These elements are inert, and therefore the subtle body also by nature is inert or insentient. And still we find it to be sentient. That shows that there must be something which imparts sentiency to the subtle body. The fan by itself doesn't work, it cannot rotate. When we find the fan rotating, then we know that there must be something because which the fan rotates. Or the bulb itself does not glow. When the bulb starts glowing, then we know that there must be electricity because of which the bulb glows. So whether the electricity is there or not, how do we know? Switch on the light. The electricity is there. It's inference. Because we cannot perceive electricity, but we know the presence of electricity by inference. Because the bulb is glowing, bulb by itself is not a non-glowing substance. And we find it glowing. That means that the glow of the bulb is due to electricity. And similarly also, this mind or intellect are inert in the sense that insentient. And we find them as sentient entities. Therefore, we infer that there must be something, namely self or the consciousness, because of which they are sentient. Because the rule is that an inert thing by itself or insentient thing by itself cannot do anything. It can do something only when in the presence of a sentient or a conscious being. Like a cart or like a chariot, it cannot run by itself. If it is pulled by the horses, the conscious beings, then the chariot can run. A car by itself cannot run. Even the conscious person, a driver, then it makes the car run. And so also the mind, intellect, the subtle body itself cannot be sentient. But it is that reveals the presence of consciousness. In that sense, the subtle body is called Linga Shariram because it reveals the presence of consciousness. The This is what we call the supporting logic, not proving logic, but supporting logic. That mind itself is not sentient, or mind itself is not conscious. The consciousness in the mind is due to consciousness, the self. So this is the subtle body. As we said, the subtle body is there where all the impressions are stored, and therefore, when the subtle body departs from this gross body, which phenomenon we call death, then it carries with it all its impressions also. Manashasthani, Indriyani, Prakritisthani Karshati. The 15th chapter of Gita describes this process as to how, when the soul departs from here, carries with it all this entire subtle body. Shariram idavapnodi yachapyatkaramati gruhitvaitani sanyati vayurgandhan ivashayat. So, when this Jivatma departs from this body, it carries the subtle body with it. When it enters the new body, brings the subtle body with it. So, this is how our scriptures describe. And as I said, this is the evidence that we have to accept the existence of subtle body, to explain the phenomenon of death, to explain the phenomenon of birth. It is not relevant in this discussion here, but still we mention this by the way. Now continuing the discussion, we were told that the subtle body is made up of 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action. So the question is, what are these organs of perception and what are the organs of action? And so, what are the organs of perception? That is answered in the next statement on the page 14. Shrotram tvakchakshu rasana ghranam iti panchajnanendriyani. Shrotram. The ear, it is said, was Shrotram means the faculty of hearing. Tvak, the faculty of touch. Chakshu, the faculty of sight. Rasana, the faculty of taste. Ghranam, the faculty of smell. This text mentions Shrotram, Tvat, Chakshuhu, Rasana, Ghranam. It mentions these 5 locations where these respective faculties become manifest. Like Shrotram, what we call the ear. As we said, ear is the location or the locus where the faculty of hearing becomes manifest. Tvak, the skin, is where the faculty of touch becomes manifest. Chakshu, the eyes, where the faculty of the sight becomes manifest. Rasana, which is the tongue, which is where the faculty of taste, and Ghranam, the nose, where the faculty of smell becomes manifest. As we said in the morning, these are the golakas, or these are the locuses, these are the centers. In itself, this ear is not what we call the faculty of hearing. Ear is where the hearing takes place. Where faculty of hearing is subtle. Ear is gross. So this gross ear becomes a locus for the manifestation of the subtle faculty of hearing. The eyes are gross, they become the locus for the manifestation of the subtle faculty of seeing. So the faculties of perception are subtle, therefore they are included in the subtle body. So thus giving us a proper acquaintance of our own personality. What is being done? Here is Viveka, or the discrimination between the self and the non-self, or the person and the personality, or the actor and the role. So what is this costume? The costume is being explained here so that we know the self as different from the costume. So if somebody wants to tell us who the actor is, then what the actor is not is first told. That look, this beard and this mustache and these rags, this is not the actor. This is not the person. That is his costume. And so also, this gross body, subtle body, causal body, these are the costumes. They are not the self. So what is not self is being explained first. So when you know the non-self as a non-self, then it becomes easier to know the self as a self. So this is the process of what we call negation. Negating what I am not. And why is this negation necessary? Because I take these things to be myself. As we said in the morning, there is no need to tell me that you are not this table, and you are not this chair, and you are not the fan. There is no need to negate that because I already negated that. I never identify with the chair or the table or the fan. But when it comes to this body, I identify with it. Therefore, I need to be told that look, the body is not you. Because I entertain this notion or this delusion that this body I am, therefore the need to be told that the body you are not. The next passage describes the various presiding deities of these organs of perception. This is an interesting concept that we have of the presiding deities. That we have these various faculties within our body or within our personality, these organs of perception, the 5 organs of perception. So, what makes these organs of perception function? We say that it is the grace of God or grace of Ishvara. And Ishvara, as we will see a little later on, is manifest as this whole universe, including all the various natural forces. And Vedanta shows us the interconnection and interdependence between the individual and the total. Individual is called Pinda, the individual being, and Brahmanda, the total. So how there is a correlation between the individual and the total? As though the whole cosmos is manifest in this individual also. So there is a correlation. There is a relationship of interdependence, or thus I am dependent upon the universe for being what I am. So thus this text, and this comes from various other scriptures, that how the various faculties functioning in our own body, and that functioning is due to the grace of various natural forces. These natural forces are called devatas, are called deities. And those deities are responsible for the functioning of the various organs in our body. And that is being described in the next passage. Shrotrasya digdevata tvacho vayuhu chakshusha suryaha rasanaya varunaha घ्राणस्य अश्विनौ इति ज्ञानेन्द्रिय देवताः. Shrotrasya digdevata. Devata is presiding deity. The presiding deity of the function of hearing is dig. Dig means directions or quarters. Tvachaha vayuhu. The presiding deity of the function of touch or the organ of touch is Vayu, is air. Chakshusha Suryaha. The presiding deity of the faculty of seeing is Surya or the sun. Rasanayaha Varunaha. The presiding deity of the function of tasting is Varuna. Ghranasya Ashvinau. The presiding deities in this case of these 2 nostrils, the function of smelling is Ashvinau. A devatas called Ashwini devatas. Iti Jnanendriya devataha. So these are the presiding deities of various organs of perception. Means we believe that the perception is possible because of the grace of these deities. Here it is said, Chakshusha Suryaha. The presiding deity of the function of seeing is Surya or sun. This is something very evident to us. That our eyes can see only when the objects or the colors are illumined by sunlight, otherwise eyes cannot function. So the eyes can see because the sun illumines the objects. It's not only that, but it is said that the sun in fact resides in our eyes, and therefore eyes are able to see. So seeing is due to the grace of sun. What is sun is nothing but again Ishvara. Ishvara manifests in a particular way. What you call presiding deities can be compared to the various functioning officers in a government and organization, so how the government, the president, functions through various secretaries and then the various sub-secretaries and various other functionaries. And so also you can say that Ishvara functions through these various deities or various devatas. And just as each officer may have his or her own jurisdiction, which it controls, and so also each devata or deity has its own jurisdiction, over which it has control. And therefore, if we need to do something, then we must go to that particular officer, not just anyone, but go to a particular officer. Need to do something with the land, go to the revenue officer. Need to do something with the tax, go to the income tax officer. And need to do something with the customs, go to the customs officer. And also we need to develop a rapport with them and perhaps make them happy also, please them, so that they become favorable to us and thus we can get our things done. This is a standard thing. That in order for getting done something, we need the favor of the functionaries. If they are not favorable, things will not happen. So, extending this thinking or extending this model to the whole universe, it is said that there are all these different devatas. So Surya, the sun, is a devata, is a deity which the jurisdiction is to illumine everything. Earth is a deity, its jurisdiction is to support everything. Vayu, the wind or the air, is a deity, its function is to sustain the life. Fire is a deity, the function is to keep everything warm. Thus, each of the deities is assigned a certain function, and it functions in its own jurisdiction. And whatever happens in that jurisdiction is due to the grace or the favor of the deity. And thus we are able to see because of the grace of sun. And if you have some problem with your sight, then you can worship sun. Get his grace, possibly that difficulty may be removed. There is a text called Chakshusha Upanishad. A short text called Chakshusha Upanishad. Upanishad about Chakshu or the eyes, where there is prayer to sun. And many people recite this text for acquiring the grace of sun so that they can see better. So if there is problem with the eyes, with the faculty of seeing, this is done. In India they do that. It is a matter of belief, of course, but some people have reported, in fact, improvements also. Some people have reported improvements. I know some people who have in fact experienced how the prayer performed to Surya Devata, Lord Sun, through this Chakshusha Upanishad, in fact, helped them improve their eyesight or help them in dealing or removing the problem with the eyes. Now Varuna. Varuna is a devata, is also a deity, we say to be the presiding deity of waters. It's interesting how everywhere there are presiding deities. We see the presence of Lord everywhere. That the water performs its function as it does. All the rivers are there. So there is a presiding deity of all the rivers. Of presiding all the water is called Varuna. And as we'll see a little later, that the faculty of taste is possible because of water. The faculty of taste is a product of the element water. And therefore, Varuna, who is the presiding deity of water, is responsible for our faculty of taste. Shrotrasya Dig Devata, the presiding deity of Shrotra, or the faculty of hearing, is these directions. Space, because we need space for the propagation of sound, and therefore we say that these directions or quarters are the presiding deity of the faculty of hearing. Tvachaha Vayuhu. We will see how these 5 elements, in fact, as we said in the morning also, and later on we'll see that every element has its own particular attribute. So, sound is the attribute of the element space. Touch is the attribute of the element air. The color is the attribute of the element fire. taste is the attribute of the element water, and smell is the attribute of the element earth. So it says, Tvachaha Vayu. Tvag is the faculty of touch, and Vayu has the attribute of touch. Therefore, Vayu, the wind god, is said to be the presiding deity of the faculty of touch. This is for our general information. Basically, what it says is that our organs of perception function because of the grace of Ishvara. And grace of Ishvara, in fact, is received by us through its various functionaries or through various deities. And thus, it is for our information or the knowledge to understand that that we see, that we hear, that we touch, that we taste, that we smell, we should not take these things for granted. In this, the grace of Ishvara is involved every moment. So, at least we can appreciate the grace of the Lord that we are enjoying every moment when these organs of perception are functioning. Now, what does each organ of perception do? That is stated in the next several sentences. Shrotrasya vishayah shabdagrahanam tvacho vishayah sparshagrahanam chakshusho vishayah rupagrahanam rasanaya vishayah rasagrahanam घ्राणस्य विषयः गन्धग्रहणम् इति श्रोत्रस्य विषयः. What is the sphere of activity or the sphere of influence of what we call shrotra or the faculty of hearing? What the faculty of hearing is? Shabda grahanam, the perception of sound. Shrotra, the faculty of hearing or the ears, perceive the sounds. Tvachaha vishaya sparsha grahanam, the function of the skin or the function of the faculty of touch is to perceive the touch or cognize touch. Chakshusha vishaya rupa grahanam, the eyes perceive the colors or the form. So word rupa can mean color as well as form. And in fact, colors and forms are not really different. What the eyes perceive are colors. That's all eyes can see. From that we get the rupa or the form also, because when the colors are distinguished in space, then we know the form also. But eyes basically perceive colors. Rasanayaha vishaya rasagrahanam, our tongue perceives the taste. And granasya vishaya gandhagrahanam, our nose perceives smell. Why are they telling this, Swamiji? We know all of this already. So we know that also is being told in case we have not made note of this. It's a complete description here, so that we know exactly who we are. That the subject matter of this text is I. Who am I? And that context, everything is being told. What is the nature of my personality and what is the nature of myself? Also, if you remember this, that it is ears that hear, and the skin that touches, the eyes that see, the tongue that tastes, and the nose that smells. It means that who is smelling? The nose is smelling. Who is seeing? Eyes are seeing. Who is hearing? The ears are hearing. What does it mean? Then who is not hearing? See, the function of hearing is performed by ears, which means that it is not performed by self. Understand that Atma does not hear. That means Atma is not hearing. Atma is not seeing. Who is seeing? The eyes are seeing. Then, on account of identification of the eyes, I declare myself to be a seer. I call myself a listener or a hearer. When does that notion arise? On account of identification with the faculty of hearing. I touched something. But when does that happen? When there is identification with the faculty of touch. I smelled. Identification with faculty of smell. So here this text very clearly divides, what belongs to what account. So if you put everything that belongs to proper account, then we'll know what remains with the Atma or the self. Usually all of these are put in the account of the self, and therefore we call ourselves hearer, thinker, or smeller, taster, toucher, seer, hearer, which Atma is not, because these functions are performed at the level of organs of perception. Then who is the self? It was said, Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharirat, Vyatiriktaha. The self of the Atma is the one who is distinct from the subtle body. All of these are the aspects of subtle body. Atma is distinct from them, meaning that I am not the ear I am not, the eyes I am not, the skin, the faculty of touch I am not, that they are a part of my personality and I am not them. So just also that it should become clear, and to clarify that, this is said here. Now, the Pancha Jnanendriyani, Pancha Karmendriyani, the 5 organs of action, that is being explained in the next section. Vak Pani Pada Payupasthani Iti Pancha Karmendriyani. So, what are the organs of action? 5 organs of perception and 5 organs of action. This model has everything 5. So we say that there are 5 elements: space, air, fire, water and earth. Correspondingly, there are 5 organs of perception. It will be interesting to compare this or to relate this, that every organ of perception perceives a particular element. As we said, sound is the attribute of the element space, and ears hear sound. The touch is the attribute of element air, so the faculty of touch perceives air. And thus, each of the organ of perception perceives or is associated with a particular element. So 5 elements, 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action. And later on we'll see, when they will describe the process of creation, evolution, how these organs of perception are born of these 5 elements. Later on we'll be told that each element, space, air, etc., has the 3 aspects: sattva, rajas and tamas. And for the sattva aspect of the 5 elements, the 5 organs of perception are created. Therefore, there is a correspondence between them, that inasmuch as the organ of hearing is created from the sattva aspect of the element space, therefore the organ of hearing perceives sound, which is the attribute of space. We'll see that later on, so it will become very clear. It's a very beautiful model. It's all pancha, is 5, that's why it's a prapancha. It's all consisting of pairs of all the units of 5. The world also is made of 5 elements. To perceive them, 5 organs of perception. To respond, 5 organs of action. So organs of perception are those with which I receive the stimuli, and organs of action are those with which I respond. So this is our interaction with the world around us, that we receive the stimuli from the world and then we respond. We receive the stimuli, we respond. Organs of perception are those with which we receive stimuli. Organs of action are those with which we respond. So Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upasthani, Pancha Karmendriyani. Vak is the organ of speech. Pani are the hands, that is organ of performing action. Pada are the legs, the organ of motion. That will be said later on. Payu is the organ of excretion. Upastha, the organ of generation. So these are the 5 organs of action. There must be 5. The idea is that everything should be 5. We talk to the 5 pranas. There are 5 upapranas also. There is also 5. Certain numbers you will find, are they get repeated again and again. So certain numbers we find have some very special significance. Like number 18 you find again and again. You find 18 chapters of the Gita. You find the 18 Puranas. You find 18 Upapuranas. You find 18 Smritis, and 18 Parvas of Mahabharata. 18 days during which the battle of Mahabharata went on. So, this number 18 you will find in many places. Number 5 you find in many places. Number 3 also you find. Number 4 also you find. Number 9 also you find. And so, certain numbers you will find. And it's very interesting how the world is this a matter of analysis or matter of classification. So, this is how the classification has taken place. Classification in the units of 5. That the world is made of the 5 elements, 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action. Now again, these organs of action also, each one of them has a corresponding presiding deity, because of whose grace that particular organ can function. So that is being stated next. Vacho devata vannihi hastayor indraha padayor vishnuhu payor mrityuhu upasthasya prajapatihi iti karmendriya devataha. Vacho devata vannihi. The presiding deity of the organ of speech is fire. So fire is also a deity, is a presiding deity of organ of speech. So speech and fire go together sometimes, they talk of fire is speech. So speech of fire is speech, because fire is a presiding deity of speech. And when the fire goes down, when you're suffering from cold, then immediate effect of the speech, I guess that's how it must be. So fire is in presiding deity of speech. Hastayo Indra. This Indra is a devata. He is supposed to be the king of gods. And he is a devata of strength. He has a very strong army. Balam. Balam also means army. Balam also means strength. So Indra is the devata of Balam, or the strength. And strength is in our arms with which you perform the actions. So Indra is said to be the presiding deity of arms, or the function of strength, or the function of action. So Indra is a karma devata. Indra is a devata of karma or action. And thus we are able to perform action because of the grace of Indra. Swastina Indro Vruddhashravaha. May Indra of wide fame, may he shower grace upon us, so that we can perform good actions. Padayoho Vishnu. This deity Vishnu is said to be the deity of motion. Because all this information also comes from Puranas, And it is possible that in somewhere you may find some difference in the detail, by the way. Suppose you find here the presiding deity of the organ of smell is Ashwini Kumar. Elsewhere you may find Prithvi also, suppose, because Prithvi has he has faculty of smell. So sometimes you find some differences in detail, depending on the source from where you take. But all is a discussion. Where does it happen? Where do you find this, Swamiji? In Puranas we find many things. And so these are also, this is all compilation from the various sources. Padayohu Vishnu. Vishnu is a devata who measured the entire universe in 2 steps. Vishnu Urukramaha. So Vishnu is Urukramaha, of long strides. So devata of 3 strides. In 3 strides they measured everything. That's in the story of the Bali Raja. And Vamana, so as Virat, as a cosmic person, Lord Vishnu is a devata of long strides. Therefore he is a devata presiding deity of motions. And as will be told, that to move is the function of the legs, and therefore Vishnu is said to be the presiding deity of legs. If a problem with your legs, with ankles, with so, and you can worship Vishnu. Recite Vishnu Sahasranama, do something, please him. Then perhaps by his grace, your legs can function a little better. Problem with the hands, worship Indra. Problem with the speech, worship the devata fire. As I said, this is all a matter of belief, Then it's a matter of Shraddha. So here, there are 2 kinds of Shraddha, or the faith the Swamiji talks about, the verifiable and the non-verifiable. Verifiable faith is that you do something and immediately get the result so you can verify. That I am Brahman is verifiable because it is an obtaining fact. But there is heavens which you gain after the death cannot be verified as long as you are alive. It is non-verifiable belief. So verifiable belief and non-verifiable belief. That you perform a certain ritual, you go to Swarga or heavens is a belief, non-verifiable belief, because you cannot go to Swarga or heavens as long as you are in this body. So it is a matter of total faith, non-verifiable belief. But Vedanta, basically the kind of belief that Vedanta expects from is verifiable belief. Because whatever Vedanta says, in as much as Vedanta addresses itself to the realities of life, and realities are those which are obtaining right now, and therefore it's a matter for us to see what is. In as much as we see things different from what they are, all that Vedanta wants us to do is to see things as they are. We see things all right, but as you said, we have a wrong or a distorted perception. And what Vedanta seeks to do is to give us the correct perception. That means Vedanta does not talk of something which is not or something that will happen. Vedanta talks of what is. What is the nature of I? What is the nature of world? What is the nature of God? What is the relationship between this? Now that's an obtaining fact, not to be created. But in as much as I see myself as different from what I really am, therefore I need to be told what I am. Like I am talking to this person, I didn't recognize the person and talking to him, and you meet many people and they talk to you, they come to you as they don't know you very well, and you are supposed to know them also. You talk to them and I'm lost, I don't know. But then after 10 minutes a friend of mine comes to my rescue and says, Swami, do you recognize this person? Who is it? Do you recognize Krishnamurti? Krishnamurti. In New York, 25 years ago, remember in those study groups? Then I scratch my head and say, yeah, that's Krishnamurti. So, it's not that Krishnamurti should be produced. He is there, but I do not recognize him. It is possible that I might take him to be different from Ramamurti, I might take him. And then I may get confused also, So he's Krishnamurti, I think he's Ramaswamy, let us say. And so then what happens? That he may get confused because of the way I relate to him. I think I am relating to a right person who is Ramaswamy. He happens to be Krishnamurti. And this can create a lot of confusion also. And the Krishnamurti can get hurt also because of the way I have no intention, but he may. So thus, by wrong recognition or by the wrong identity, how a lot of confusion can be created. And a lot of confusion in life is also due to that, by not knowing each other. I think I know you, and then you are different from what I think you are, and that's why there is a lot of difficulties. So what Vedanta does is the role similar to the role performed by my friend who just tells me, here is Krishnamurti. It is only a recognition of what is, and that became necessary because I took that person to be different from what the person is. I had a wrong perception, and therefore it was necessary for me to be told so that my perception is corrected. That's all. Then the problems created from wrong perceptions are solved by the right perception. So Vedanta says that all our problems are product of wrong perception, and therefore all that is necessary is the right perception. So this is the as far as, however, the presiding deity is concerned, it's a matter of belief there because it is not evident to us. It is something that we have to accept in faith. And therefore, when I say that worship Vishnu Devata for some difficulties in legs, I am just saying it simply out of faith. And if you are lucky enough, you might verify it also. Suppose you pray, and then perhaps you may benefit it. But then, how do you know what the benefit is due to? Is it that it is due to grace of Vishnu that the difficulties in legs is solved, or due to some medication, or due to rest, or due to physiotherapy? I don't know. But it's better to give credit to the Lord always. Swami says it is a graceful way. To accept grace is a graceful way. And therefore, it's always better to accept the grace. That this happened because of grace of Lord. in the form of Vishnu, in the form of Agni, in the form of Indra. Payaho mrityuhu. Then this faculty is organ of excretion, also is an organ of action, and mrityu, the death, is said to be the presiding deity. Upasthasya prajapatihi, this organ of generation or procreation, and Prajapati is said to be the presiding deity. Prajapati means creator. So it quite makes sense that Prajapati should be the presiding deity, the organ of generation or organ of procreation. So these are the 5 devatas. Then what do these organs of action do? That is being told here. Vacho vishayo bhashanam, payor vishayo vastu grahanam, padayor vishayo gamanam, payor vishayo malatyagah, upasthasya vishaya ananda iti. So what is the sphere of activity of each of these organs of action? Vachaha, the sphere of activity of the organ of speech is to speak. So vacho vishaya bhashanam, the sphere of activity of organ of speech is speaking. To speak is the activity of organ of speech. What is the action of the hands? Grasping. So they say, Parnyoho Vishaya Vastu Grahanam. The sphere of activity of the 2 hands is to grasp. So that is the main function of hands. Padayoho Vishaya Gamanam. The function of legs is locomotion, is movement. Payoho Vishaya Malatyagaha. The function of the organ of excretion is the elimination of waste products. Upasthasya Vishaya Anandaha. The sphere activity of genital is the pleasure. So these are the 5 organs of action performing those 5 functions. Again, what does it mean to us? Is this just general information? It is general information also at the same time to note that speaking is action performed by the organ of speech and not by self. So when I declare myself to a speaker, it shows an identification. So only when I identify the organ of speech that I declare myself to be a speaker. Now that is where the wrong perception is. So when I look upon myself as a speaker, it is a false perception of myself. It arises on account of the identification organ of speech. Or when I say that I am performing action. To perform action is the function of hands. And I say that I perform the action. But then performing action is a function of hands. So thus if this distinction is clear, even though you may say I spade this, you may use that language for the purpose of communication, but if in your mind you are clear that the action of speaking was done in my presence, that's the reality. The reality is that the action of speaking takes place in the presence of the self. We have an Upanishad, which is called Kenopanishad. And this Kenopanishad opens with this question on the part of an aspirant. So when Jignasu, or an aspirant, a student, approaches a teacher and asks these questions, various questions are asked. Keneshitam patati preshitam manah. Kenah pranaha prathamah paritiyuktaha. The student asks of the teacher, "O revered sir, what is it that makes his mind function? What is it that makes his prana or vital air perform its own functions? What is it that makes the ear hear, the eyes see, the speech that people talk? Keneshitam vachamivam vadanti. By whose order, by whose grace, in whose presence this organ of action or organ of speech performs the action of speaking?" So this is a question. As I said, this question arose on account of the deliberations that the student must have gone on and must have taken place in the mind of the student, because he recognizes that the organ of speech is inert. It's an organ. And still, as I said, it functions as though it is a sentient entity. So, what is it that makes the organ of action, organ of speaking, speak? And so it is said, Shrotrasya Shrotram. It is a self because of which the ears hear, because of which I see, because of which the organ of speech speaks and so forth, and thus distinguish between the organ of action and the self, organ of perception and the self. The self is distinct from them. So Lord Krishna says, Shrotram Chakshu Sparshanam Cha Rasanam Ghranameva Cha Adhishthaya Manaschayam Vishayan Upatishtati. So Vishayan, he enjoys all these sense objects by resorting to the ears and the touch and the taste, by all these faculties. And with the mind, the self enjoys or experiences the various objects. The idea is that these organs of perception and organs of action are various organs. The self is not the organ. The organs perform their various functions, and the self is different. I, the Atma, is different from these organs of perception, organs of action. So thus the discussion of the subtle body is concluded here. We were told that the subtle body is made up of the 17 parts. What are those 17 parts are described here. The 5 organs of perception, they were described. 5 organs of action also described. 5 pranas are not described, but we describe them: prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. Each prana has its own function or the sphere of activity, and the mind and the intellect will be subsequently described. So that makes the 17 elements which make up the subtle body. And sukshma sharirat vyatiriktah, we should know that Atma, the self, is distinct from the subtle body. Now it is easy to understand perhaps that the self is distinct from the gross body, but somewhat more difficult to understand the self is distinct from the subtle body also, distinct from the organs of perception, organs of action, the 5 pranas, the mind, intellect. The self of the Atma, the consciousness, is distinct from these. And third is the Karana Shariram. Sthula, Sukshma, Karana Sharirat Vyatiriktah. The self is distinct from the gross, subtle, and the causal body. So there is third is called causal bodies, Karana Shariram, and there is a question asked about that now. Karana Shariram Kim. What is the causal body? See, the very name suggests causal body. It means it is cause. The answer is given in the next passage. Anirvachya Anadi Avidya Rupam Shariradvayasya Karanamatram Sata Swarupa Ajnanam Nirvikalpaka Rupam Yadasti Tat Karana Shariram. The causal body, not casual body, but the causal body. Some people sometimes don't read properly, so it's causal body. It is called body, which is a cause. So, see, in between it says Sharira Dvayasya Karanamatram. Why this causal body? Because it is the cause of the other 2 bodies. So 2 bodies we already discussed, the gross body and the subtle body. What causes them is called the causal body. And what is it? Anirvachya Anadi Avidya Rupam. That which is of the nature of ignorance. So ignorance is said of the causal body. Now we look for a body and you don't find it. This gross body is very clear to me that it is body, Shariram. The subtle body also becomes relatively clear to me because it pervades the entire gross body. It is within the gross body, therefore it is also a body. But ignorance, Swami, where is this causal body? Is there a body called ignorance? Does ignorance have a certain form or some characteristics like that? No. So this ignorance of the causal body is called Shariram, more in the derivative sense, Meaning that the word Sharira, the body, applies in a primary sense with reference to gross and subtle bodies. But when it comes to causal body, the word Sharira is applicable only in the derivative sense. We said in the morning, Shiryate iti Shariram, or Shiryamanatva Shariram. That which is subject to disintegration, that which is subject to decay, that which is perishable is called Shariram. That is the derivative meaning of the word Shariram. So words have sometimes more than one meanings. One are what we call the Rudhi, meaning the commonly known meaning. Other may be the meaning that is derivative meaning, derived from the root from which and the various suffixes and prefixes which determine the meaning of the word, so derivative meaning. And it may also have a third meaning, what we call implied meaning. But the Vachyartha means the commonly known meaning. So word Sharira means body. And therefore this body is called body. But ignorance is not a body like this gross body or subtle body. So don't look for a third body within ourselves. But ignorance is called a body not because it is body in a primary sense, but it is body in a derivative sense. Shiryamanatvat ajnanam. What is ajnanam? Ignorance. Why ignorance is called ajnanam in Sanskrit? A is that which is the negative particle. Ajnana virodhi iti ajnanam. So that which of which jnanam is the opposite is called ajnanam. So ignorance is that, the knowledge is that which is opposed to ignorance. Oh, so jnana virodhi ajnanam means is not ignorance is opposed to knowledge, but knowledge is opposed to ignorance. Like the light is opposed to darkness. And therefore, ajnanam is not a body. Ajnanam is called a body because it is subject to being dispelled by knowledge. It is subject to being destroyed by knowledge. In that sense, it is called Shariram or the body. And therefore, there is no separate body called causal body. Therefore, we said earlier that ignorance, where does it reside? It resides in our mind. So ignorance has its seat in the subtle body. Therefore, when the subtle body departs, along with that, ignorance also goes. So we are born ignorant also. But it is called Shariram because Shiryamanatva. So what is this causal body? Is avidya rupam, of the nature of ignorance. What kind of ignorance? Anirvachya anadi avidya rupam. So this is a very important principle in Vedanta, and that is called ignorance. So this nature of ignorance is something to be clearly understood. What is ignorance? Ignorance means ignorance. But often ignorance is understood to be the absence of knowledge. We use the word ignorance. Swamiji, do you know Chinese language? I don't know. Do you know Russian? I don't know. Do you know Tamil? That I do not know. So when I say I am ignorant of Russian or ignorant of Chinese, what does it mean? I do not have the knowledge of Russian or Chinese language. So generally when we use the word ignorance, we use it in the sense of absence of knowledge. I do not know. But in Vedanta, the word ajnana of ignorance is not used merely for absence of knowledge, but it is used for false knowledge. This ignorance, therefore ajnanam becomes a technical word, and this ajnanam has two aspects. One is avaranam, other is vikshepa. One is veiling, other is projecting power. And the example that is given to explain ignorance is that of the rope snake. Example of a rope snake to explain what ignorance is. Now we are all familiar with this example, that sometimes in the twilight time, in the evening, when there is not enough, it's not dark totally, no, there is adequate light, and it is possible that I might mistake a piece of rope to be a snake, for whatever reason. So what is lying in front of me is rope, but I take it to be a snake. Rope is called rajjuhu in Sanskrit, snake is called sarpaha. So in fact, what is iyam rajjuhu? This is rope. But how do I perceive it? I am Sarpa. This is the snake. No, this is my perception. This is what we call the false perception. So this is a typical example of false perception. How you perceive one thing quite contrary to what it is. So in rope, in fact, there is not even a trace of the snake. Asarpa bhutayam rajvam sarparopaha. That is the superimposition of snake upon the rope, which does not have the trace of snake at all. This is also important. In the rope, there is not a trace of snake, and still I perceive a snake there. This is called Brahma, or Aviveka, or Moha, or Adhyasa, or Adhyaropa. So many words are there. Brahma means delusion. Aviveka means non-discrimination. Adhyasa means superimposition. Therefore, there is a superimposition of snake upon the rope, or there is a delusion of snake where there is rope, or there is a non-discrimination between the rope and the snake. So thus, my mind projects a snake where there is rope because of the ignorance of what that object is. So ignorance of the rope creates the wrong perception or the projection of the snake. Thus, ignorance has two aspects here. One is that I do not know the rope as rope, and secondly, I take the rope to be snake. It is not merely the absence of knowledge of rope, but then there is absence of knowledge, meaning that I do not know the rope. At the same time, there is superimposition of snake. In Sanskrit, not knowing is called avaranam, meaning that the rope is veiled from my perception. Vikshepa, in place of that, the snake, in fact, is projected by my mind. So, not knowing the rope as rope and taking it to be the snake. Thus, there are two aspects of ignorance. One is not knowing, and second is knowing it wrongly. So, this is the nature of ignorance. So, when Vedanta uses the word ignorance, ajnanam or avidya, sometimes ajnanam, sometimes avidya, meaning the same, and it is in this sense, is not knowing the true nature and knowing it wrongly, quite contrary to what it is. Not knowing the rope as rope and knowing it as snake, this is called ignorance of the rope. And similarly, there is this kind of ignorance in our life also. Not knowing the self for what it is. Number one, I do not know my true nature of myself. And secondly, I take myself to be contrary to what I am. As Vedanta teaches us, you are Brahman, you are limitless. That means that the truth about myself is that I am limitless. I am free from every limitation. This is the obtaining fact about myself. However, I do not know that I am limitless. At the same time, I take myself to be limited. I do not know that I am a complete or whole being. I take myself to be incomplete. I do not know that I am ever free. Take myself to be limited or bound. I do not know that I am immortal. Take myself to be a mortal being. I do not know that I am of the nature of knowledge. Take myself to be ignorant being. I do not know that I am Ananda, happiness. Take myself to be unhappy being. So this is what happens. So just as a rope is taken to be a snake, so that is the example. In our day-to-day life, the self is in the place of the rope and the ego is in the place of the snake. So where the limitless self is, I take it to be a limited ego. When the self is the self of all, I take it to be the self confined to this one body-mind complex. And that is how I suffer from a sense of smallness, a sense of confinement, a sense of isolation from others. I feel being excluded by everybody else. And this, as we said, is the cause of all my sorrow. And the cause of sorrow is not because of what I am. Cause of sorrow is what I take myself to be. If really I was limited, and really I was insignificant, really I was bound, and I took myself that way and then suffered, then it's okay. There is some validity or legitimate reason for me to feel sorry about myself. So basically, whenever I am sorry about myself. Even though we say I am sorry for you, that may be just words, but I cannot be sorry for anybody else. I am always sorry about myself. When I find myself limited, find myself helpless, find myself isolated, whatever. And so, this perception of myself is the cause of all my sorrow. Just as the perceiving the rope a snake creates in me lots of reactions. I see the snake and there is fear in my mind. And I look around and I want to retreat and run away from there because there is a snake. Now, if I had known the rope as a rope, there is no cause of fear. I would not have to retreat. I would not have run away from there. But because it is the wrong perception. So, this is the basic principle or basic explanation that Vedanta gives us of cause of sorrow or the cause of sadness or grief. Just as the cause of my fear is not the rope, but the wrong perception of rope. The only way to get rid of that fear is to know that what I take to be the snake is in fact rope, and there is no other way that fear will go. If you invite some snake charmer and he does all kinds of charm, but as long as this notion is planted in your mind there is a snake, so long a snake charm, nobody can remove it. The only way to get rid of the snake is by knowing that that object is rope. And thus, the means of removal of the fear is knowledge of the rope, not an action. It is not by an action that the snake will go away. When I see this, usually when you see the snake, you do various things. Sometimes you just, make some noise so that the snake may go away, or you do certain things, or you chant some mantra and the snake may go away. Perhaps a real snake may go away that way, but this snake will never go away. For the simple reason that it is not there. It's imaginary. So imagination can go only when the cause of imagination goes. The projection will go when the cause of projection goes. And therefore, that snake will go only when ignorance goes. And so also, my sorrow will go not by doing anything, regardless of what I do. I can chant mantra, I can do anything. But it will not go. There can be some help. There can be relief, Yes, there can be relief in my sorrow. But it will never go inasmuch as the cause has to go. So this is the most important contribution of Vedanta in its explanation of the phenomenon of sorrow. Because the sorrow or the sadness or grief is, as I said, the fundamental problem of human being. And that's all the problem we have. There is no other problem. Whether I am educated or not, whether I have money or not, whether I am poor or rich, there is no problem. Nothing can make me sad. If I knew what I am, nothing would make me sad. And when I don't know what I am, everything can make me sad. Lack of money also can make me sad, and presence of money also can make me sad. What do I need to become sad? Very little. Because the outer things, outer events merely just trigger off the sadness which is deeply seated in my heart, and all the outer events do is to trigger off that sadness. As though I'm just waiting for an opportunity to cry, that's all. Or waiting for an opportunity to feel sad. Because it's there. And it can go only when the cause goes. So, avidya, the ignorance is the cause of the sense of smallness. And the sense of smallness is the cause of all our sorrow or sadness. We will continue in the discussion next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।